Welcome to the TDS Early Years podcast. Now, each week we're going to be joined by different educational experts from across the globe who are going to offer exclusive insights, inspiration and guidance to help us as practitioners unlock all the potential for learning that there is in the early years. So to be first to hear about future episodes and to access all of the follow-up content, including ideas for your own setting, Pinterest, mood boards and loads more, you can sign up for exclusive access using the link in our podcast description. Hello everybody, my name is Alistair Bryce-Clegg and I am your host for this week's TDS Talking Early Years podcast, and I'm an early years consultant, trainer and author. The first series of the TDS Talking Early Years podcast aims to explore the amazing adventures that children can have in outdoor learning in the early years. And I'll be talking to a number of global experts that we aim to use their knowledge to inspire your everyday work and unlock the potential of all of the great things that you do in your early years settings. I am delighted to introduce Ellen Sandseter, who is today's guest. Hello, Ellen.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I am actually a huge fan of your work, so I am a little bit fanboying at the moment. It's going to be a pleasure to spend the next few minutes discussing your work around risky play. But for anybody that hasn't come across your work, could you just tell us a little bit about you, who you are and what you do?
Well, I am a professor within early childhood education in Norway, Trondheim in Norway, working at the Department of Physical Education and Health here. So I'm actually becoming preschool teachers or early childhood teachers. And my main interest within research is risky play and children's risk-taking in play. So I have been trying to, see the positive side of children taking risks and not to, overprotect them.
So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the benefits of risky play. And like we talked about in the last episode, not just the benefits for children, but also the benefits for us as adults, where it's sometimes good for us to take a little bit of risk in our practice, because that's how we make it better. So Ellen, could we start by just outlining for children some of the fundamental benefits of being allowed to take a risk in those early childhood years?
Well, I think there's two parts of that. And one is the kind of subjective experience that children have, like what they are experiencing here and now while they are engaging in risky play. And for children, that is the most important thing. It's kind of the self-value of play in itself that children are conscious about. And the other thing is the more developmental benefits. And if you ask a child, they wouldn't mention any of those. So that's what we adults would also focus on. So for children, the more experience that they get. I've been interviewing a lot of children about what are you feeling when you're taking risks in play? Why are you doing that? Because they tell me that they think it's scary, but it's funny. It's great fun at the same time. So in the Norwegian version, when I interview Norwegian children, they tell me that it's skummelt artig, and that means directly translated scary funny. So it's the balancing on the edge between anxiety and excitement. And this is what they are seeking. And it's the same thing that adults doing extreme sports and things like that are also seeking. But children don't need to, jump out with a parachute. They could balance on a fallen down log, maybe a little bit slippery, and then get the same emotions. So for children, it's about those feelings, the becoming a little bit scared, because when you are approaching fear, your excitement will rise. So this is what children seek. And for children, this is their main motivation, and this is why they want to do risky things in play. And some of the children just told me, I just feel wild in my body, and I'm just shivering, and they try to show me how they shivered. And some of them just said it tickles so much in my tummy that I almost get nauseous. But it's so delicious, and I love it when it tickles in my tummy.
And that's kind of your positive butterflies in the tummy, isn't it? That's when you're not scared,
no.
you're excited about what you're doing.
Yeah,
I
or
think,
excitement.
yeah. And when we're thinking about building kind of curious and resilience, I suppose. So we're talking about your children developing some brain learning where we're helping to kind of build their brain in terms of their social character around things like resilience. So if you have had the opportunity to experiment with risk in a positive way, then when things don't quite go the way you expect them to in your life, then you've got a bank of feelings, sensations, experience you can draw on. Whereas if you haven't, then you're a little bit stuck.
Yeah. And that's really important, because that's the more developmental benefits, because you get a really, really broad experience base. It helps your nervous system. It helps your motor skills and motor competencies, your physical development, because you're, using your body and in challenging ways. And also, self-confidence and all those things. And, when you, and also there are evidence that it also helps, like psychologically. So you get as you say, more resilience. You're not afraid of everything. So you better how to risk assess in a more accurate way, so you don't misinterpret the situation, and you also then have a large or a broad kind of base of experience of how to handle it. So in that way, I would say risky play is one of the best ways for injury prevention. Because you kind of train the whole body to assess risks, manage risks, and do the right decisions. And also, you have a body that actually can do risk management.
Well, your body gets just much better at knowing what its capabilities are.
Yeah.
But I think part of that, which is also important, is that if you've got a really healthy approach to risky play, there will be accidents, which doesn't mean to say there will be drastic accidents, but there might be grazed knees, there might be falling over, because to be able to effectively risk assess, sometimes you have to wrongly assess the risk. Otherwise, how do you learn?
Yeah.
So I think, again, part of this is not saying if you had an approach to risk assessment or a risk environment or risk-rich environment that nobody's ever going to get hurt. But again, it's that element of saying you put enough thought and assessment into the space that you reduce the risk of it being something significant, but it can never be risk-free.
No, and I also had projects where we've been mapping injuries in Norwegian preschools. And I guess, or at least usually people in England and outside of Scandinavia think that in Norway we're quite crazy because we let children take risks. So they're actually allowed to take risks from a very, very early age. But when we look at injuries in Norwegian preschools, they're very, very few. So we have very few injuries, and the ones that we find are 98% of them are minor injuries that you just fix with a Band-Aid or a paracetamol or something. Very, very, very minor injuries. We have a few broken bones, and things like that, but that's just very, very few compared to children who play every day in preschool.
That happens in life, doesn't it? I think, but it feels counterintuitive sometimes, but it stands to reason. If you create a space where there are so many structured activities that are quite narrow in their expectation or in the way that they allow children to explore, then children don't ever risk assess. So then when they are put in a position where they have to, then they're likely to misassess, and that's when significant injury is likely to happen.
Yeah, and it's the same. I mean, you wouldn't allow a teenager to just start driving a car without, being trained and then taking his or her driving license.
Yeah.
So it's the same with the small children. If you let them explore from a young age, it actually is injury preventive, because they learn how to handle it. And then you get fewer injuries along the way. If you wait until they're 9 years old and you say, well, now you're old enough to climb that 20-meter high tree, you sure will have a kid that doesn't have any base of experience, any skills that would match the challenge. So yeah, then it becomes dangerous.
A child that just won't climb the tree will say, I won't even try. And that's, I think, if we are looking for creative, curious learners that are going to be the adults of the future, that are going to solve the world's problems, which is all now sounding very grandiose, but the people who are going to be able to do that are the people who've got lots of experience of thinking differently, being resilient, being self-secure, being problem solvers. And realistically, that can start at the very beginnings of just having an opportunity to take more risk in your outside play space.
Yeah.
It's not that you have to have gone to world leader school to learn how to be a world leader. Effective leaders and managers are often just adults who as children had opportunities to learn to be creative. Because we've all got creativity inside us. I really believe that. But I think it's about being given the opportunity to express and rehearse as many different ways as possible. It allows you to really enhance it.
Yeah, and that's also, some of the theories behind risk-taking and sensation-seeking is that you always, like, mankind needs some people who are willing to take risks sometimes, and unless we wouldn't have, innovative developments or entrepreneurship and things like that. So, and if we are kind of strangling, or do you call it strangling? Like,
we can go strangling.
That those initiatives at an early age, you're kind of destroying the grounds for children, and also then later in life to dare to take a risk, also starting up a business or developing a new engine.
Whatever it may. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to say we're not just talking about the translation between really physical outdoor play and then adults who become physical outdoor risk takers. This is about saying whatever your creativity is, whatever boundaries you're breaking through in whatever field you work in, comes from a mindset which is about being secure in your ability to take and manage risk. And that comes from opportunities to do that. When you are younger, and the outdoor space just provides, because of the way the children play and interact in an outdoor space, and because of what Mother Nature gives us, is unbounded opportunities to take risks, as long as we're allowed to do that. I think you're right about the driving instructor analogy. My youngest son is learning to drive at the moment. And then again, as an adult, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but I have to get rid of my natural anxiety at the fact he's about to crash the car. And I have what he calls my dad driving instructor voice, where I kind of just drop an octave and I'm a little bit, that's fine. Just turn the car off. And when really inside I'm thinking, oh, we're all going to die. No, it's fine. Just turn the car on. And I think, again, we're going to talk about practitioners in a bit, but the idea is sometimes as a practitioner, it's not about saying, let children take mad risks, but sometimes you have to quieten the voice that's saying, be careful, get down, come here, because actually there's no need to say that if a child is clearly managing the situation that they're in.
Well, I think it would have the opposite effect, actually, because all my observational studies of children taking risks in play, they are really, really concentrated on the risk that they are taking. They are aware of the risk, and they are, they're using their whole attention on that activity. And if you, as a parent or as a practitioner, then suddenly starts to shout to a child in the top of the tree, for instance, be careful, or don't do that, or watch out, you're actually ripping them out of their concentration, and that's when you could actually do more harm than making them more secure.
And actually, on that note, we're going to stop this episode there, because in the next episode, what we're going to explore is how attitudes to risky play have changed over the years, in some respects and not others, and also how that is really impacted on opportunities and possibilities for children. So for the moment, Ellen, thank you very much. Informative and insightful as always.
Thank you.
All it leaves me to do is to say a huge thank you to our guest, Ellen, for joining us and providing such valuable and interesting insights. So you've been listening to the TDS Talking Early Years podcast with me, Alistair Bryce-Clegg, and Ellen Sandseter. If you've been inspired by our conversation today, and I'm sure you have, don't forget that you can sign up via the link in our episode notes to be the first to hear about future episodes and access all of the exclusive follow-up content, which includes ideas for your setting and Pinterest boards that will help you to shop resources that are really good for learning through risk.